Get back, all right? Get back before that thing eats somebody. Well, it's not. You see that fence? That's mine.
Kevin Costner's decision to step away from his iconic role as John Dutton in Yellowstone marked the end of an era for both the show and the actor. His portrayal of the fiercely protective patriarch of the Dutton family had become synonymous with the hit series, and his departure left fans shocked and confused. For many, John Dutton had come to represent the soul of Yellowstone, a complex, layered character with a unique mix of authority, vulnerability, and unyielding loyalty to his land and family. Costner's rugged charisma was the beating heart of the show, and his exit has left viewers wondering what the future holds for the Yellowstone universe. But what led to Kevin Costner's departure, and how did such a drastic turn of events come about? To fully understand the situation, it's crucial to look at the growing tensions behind the scenes, the challenges of balancing professional aspirations, and the creative differences that ultimately drove the actor to leave the series. From strained relationships with Yellowstone creator Taylor Sheridan to the pressures of an expanding storyline, Costner's exit was not a simple matter of wanting to move on to new projects. It was the culmination of a series of conflicts that reflected deeper shifts in both his career and the show's evolution. The roots of the conflict, a creative partnership that strained over time. Kevin Costner's departure from Yellowstone did not come out of nowhere. The relationship between Costner and the show's creator, Taylor Sheridan, had been building with tension for some time. When Yellowstone first launched in 2018, it was a fresh and daring addition to the Western genre, a compelling story of family loyalty, land ownership, and the complex interactions between tradition and modernity. At the center of it all was John Dutton, a man who would do anything to protect his family and the land that had been in their possession for generations. Costner's performance as John Dutton was pivotal to the show's success. His ability to portray a character who was both steely and vulnerable, pragmatic yet driven by a sense of moral duty, made him a natural fit for the role. Sheridan, a writer and director with a clear vision for the show, tapped into Costner's own strengths, his history in westerns, his deep understanding of American frontier mythology, and his larger-than-life screen presence. However, as the show grew in popularity and expanded in scope, so did the demands on Costner. Sheridan, known for his ambitious storytelling and willingness to challenge conventions, had a grand vision for the series. This included more intricate character arcs, deeper emotional stakes, and more complex relationships between characters. While this resulted in a richer narrative, it also meant that the workload for Costner and the rest of the cast intensified. The pressure to keep pace with Sheridan's vision became a source of friction, particularly as Costner's own professional ambitions began to take precedence. Scheduling conflicts, a balancing act between Yellowstone and Horizon 1, of the key factors that contributed to Kevin Costner's departure from Yellowstone was his increasing desire to focus on his own creative projects. In particular, Costner had long been passionate about directing and had begun work on Horizon, a multi-part Western epic that he envisioned as a tribute to the American frontier. This project, which he had been dreaming of for decades, demanded a significant time commitment. As a result, scheduling conflicts began to arise between his work on Yellowstone and his dedication to his directorial pursuits. In the world of television, the lead actor's availability can be a make or break factor for the success of a show. With a show like Yellowstone, which was rooted in its portrayal of John Dutton and his interactions with the other characters, the pressure on Costner to commit to an ever-expanding schedule became increasingly difficult. Reports suggested that Costner had expressed a preference to limit his role on Yellowstone, wanting to spend less time on set in order to focus more on Horizon. This was a hard pill for the production team to swallow, especially as Yellowstone was gearing up for new seasons that would require a significant amount of on-screen time from Costner's character. The crux of the issue lay in the fact that Sheridan, as the showrunner, was not only focused on the narrative, but also on the continuity of the production schedule. As the series progressed, Sheridan's vision for Yellowstone was becoming more intricate and expansive, and the role of John Dutton was at the center of this evolution. Cutting back on Costner's availability was seen as potentially disruptive to the show's flow and narrative integrity. The show had always been designed around John Dutton's leadership, and reducing his presence on screen could affect the very structure of the series. Moreover, Costner's desire for a reduced role on Yellowstone came at a time when the series was experiencing its most critical period of growth. By season 5, Yellowstone had become a cultural phenomenon, and the stakes were higher than ever. The storylines were more complex, with deeper emotional arcs and evolving relationships. While this was undoubtedly an exciting direction for the show, it required a level of commitment from the cast, especially Costner, that he was no longer willing to give. Creative differences, visionary paths, that diverged beyond the scheduling conflicts. There were also creative differences that exacerbated the situation. Taylor Sheridan, who had built Yellowstone from the ground up, had a particular vision for where the story of John Dutton and his family should go. As the series moved toward its later seasons, Sheridan's ambitions for the show continued to expand. The narrative began to incorporate more complex political dynamics, deeper family secrets, and more ambitious plotlines. While this was met with enthusiasm by many, it also created challenges for Costner, who had been integral in shaping the character of John Dutton. There were reports that Costner and Sheridan had differing views on how John Dutton should evolve in the later seasons. Costner, who had already poured years into the character, had a clear understanding of John's motivations and personality. He had crafted a deeply nuanced portrayal of the character, and it seemed that any deviation from his vision for John Dutton was met with resistance. The actor's attachment to the role was both emotional and professional, but as the show moved in new directions, it appeared that the vision for the character was no longer aligned with Costner's own ideas. In contrast, Sheridan, whose storytelling instincts were driving the show's expansion, seemed to want to push John Dutton into new, unexpected territory. Yellowstone had always been about the tension between tradition and change, but the tension between Costner and Sheridan over the character's future seemed to represent a much larger clash between artistic integrity and the pressures of a hit show. The impact of Costner's departure, the end of an era. Kevin Costner's decision to leave Yellowstone was not just a personal choice. It was a pivotal moment for the show itself. The news came as a shock to fans, many of whom had grown deeply attached to the world of Yellowstone and its characters. John Dutton, as played by Costner, had become a cultural icon, a symbol of stoic strength and unwavering commitment to his family and land. To lose such a central figure in the series was to risk unraveling the very fabric of the show. Despite the challenges that his departure posed for Yellowstone, the show did not come to a complete halt. Sheridan and the producers had already begun planning for a new chapter, which would see the show shift its focus to other characters and potentially explore new directions. It is worth noting that Yellowstone's universe was not limited to just one character or one family. As the show grew, the narrative expanded to include a wider range of characters, many of whom had their own rich, compelling stories. In the wake of Costner's departure, there was also speculation about how the show would handle John Dutton's exit. Would the character be written out in a dramatic and unexpected way? Or would the series take a quieter, more reflective approach to his departure? Fans were left wondering how Sheridan and the team would bring the story of John Dutton to a close without losing the heart of what made Yellowstone so compelling. For Costner, leaving Yellowstone was a bittersweet decision. His departure marked the end of a chapter in his career, but it also signaled the beginning of something new. As much as he had come to embody John Dutton, the actor was ready to return to his roots, his love for the Western genre, and his passion for filmmaking. Horizon represented a personal and creative return to the stories that had shaped his career, particularly his earlier successes, like Dances with Wolves. It was a full-circle moment for Costner, who had long wanted to direct a Western epic that would explore the complexities of the American frontier. The legacy of Kevin Costner in Yellowstone and beyond. Kevin Costner's exit from Yellowstone will undoubtedly be remembered as a pivotal moment in the history of the show. His portrayal of John Dutton left an indelible mark on the series, elevating it to a level of critical acclaim that few modern TV dramas have achieved. While Yellowstone may continue without him, it will be difficult to replace the emotional depth and authenticity that Costner brought to the role. Costner's decision to focus on Horizon, a project that he had dreamed of for years, was both a personal and professional choice. It was his opportunity to return to the genre that had shaped his career and allowed him to explore the complexities of the American West in a way that only he could. Whether Yellowstone can continue to thrive without its central figure remains to be seen. But one thing is certain: Kevin Costner's legacy as John Dutton will continue to resonate with fans long after the show has ended. The Horizon Saga, Kevin Costner's epic vision, and the struggles of a Western rebirth. Kevin Costner's Horizon Saga is far more than just a typical film project. It represents an ambitious, sweeping attempt to resurrect and expand the Western genre. Conceived as a multi-part epic, Horizon was designed to capture the vast and often brutal transformation of the American West throughout the 19th century. Costner envisioned this series as a canvas on which he could explore the complex tapestry of the pioneers' journey, the expansion of settler populations, their clashes with indigenous tribes, and the sacrifices made in the name of progress. The saga would not be a single film, but a series of installments that would span several decades of American history. The scale of this vision, from a narrative and logistical standpoint, required monumental commitment, patience, and an enormous amount of planning. For Costner, a man who had already achieved success in the Western genre, first with Dances with Wolves and more recently through his role in Yellowstone, Horizon was the culmination of a long-standing dream. But even with his established pedigree, the project was far from a sure thing. It faced significant hurdles, particularly when it came to securing financing in an industry increasingly dominated by superhero franchises and blockbuster franchises that were more commercially viable. And yet, Costner pressed forward with Horizon, demonstrating a deep passion for the material that was unwavering, despite the financial risks and the changing tastes of the modern movie-going audience. A dream project meets reality, the challenge of financing Horizon. When Costner first conceived Horizon, he knew the project would require significant resources, not just in terms of narrative ambition, but also in logistical and financial support. The film would not be a small-scale affair. This was to be a multi-part saga, designed to tackle one of the most complex and tumultuous periods in American history: the transformation of the American West, its settlement by pioneers, the violent clashes with indigenous populations, and the establishment of a new societal order. Was a story that would take years to tell. Each installment would need to be meticulously planned, not just in terms of story, but in terms of set pieces, locations, costumes, and historical accuracy. Securing financing for such an ambitious project proved to be a monumental task. Hollywood, in the era of superhero blockbusters and franchise filmmaking, had become a place where risks were increasingly avoided. The idea of making a multi-part Western saga, which was seen as a niche genre in modern cinema, was a hard sell. Studios, focusing their attention on tried-and-true IPs like Marvel and DC, were skeptical about whether a film about the Western frontier would resonate with contemporary audiences. A genre that had once captivated the mass market, the Western, had largely fallen out of favour with the mainstream. And yet, Costner, with his extensive experience in the genre, was committed. He had lived and breathed Westerns throughout much of his career, from his Academy Award-winning direction of Dances with Wolves to his role in Open Range and his recent turn as John Dutton in Yellowstone. The Western genre was in his blood. And despite the industry's reluctance to back such a risky venture, Costner set out to make Horizon a reality. He was determined to bring this epic story to the screen, regardless of the industry's hesitations. A glimmer of hope, Horizon at the Cannes Film Festival. Despite the hurdles he faced with financing, Costner's Horizon found its way to the Cannes Film Festival, one of the most prestigious and discerning platforms for global cinema. The premiere of the first installment of Horizon was met with applause, with the film's cinematography and sheer scope being particularly praised. It was clear from the early reviews that Costner had not lost his touch as a director. Critics lauded the film for its breathtaking visuals and the immersive portrayal of the rugged frontier. His ability to tell an epic story with patience and careful attention to detail was appreciated, as the film unfolded with a slow but deliberate pace that matched the unhurried, relentless march of history. The performances, particularly from the ensemble cast, were also well received. Costner himself took on a significant role, both behind the camera and in front of it, demonstrating his versatility as a director-actor. The film's emotional weight was palpable, and in a moment of raw vulnerability, Costner broke down in tears during the film's screening, overwhelmed by the response. The film had earned an 11-minute standing ovation, a remarkable display of appreciation at one of the world's most competitive festivals. The criticism, pacing, and the struggle for modern audiences. However, despite the praise, Horizon was not without its criticisms. Some reviewers found the pacing to be overly slow, particularly in comparison to modern blockbusters that favour rapid, action-packed sequences. Costner's deliberate approach to storytelling, while appreciated for its emotional depth, seemed to alienate some viewers who were more accustomed to the fast-paced, visually driven narratives that dominate Hollywood today. The film's length, meant to be one of its defining features, was another point of contention. In an era where audiences are increasingly drawn to shorter, punchier experiences, the sprawling epic that Costner had envisioned seemed out of place. Some critics argued that the story could have been condensed into fewer parts, while others questioned whether the film could sustain audience interest across multiple installments. In terms of commercial success, the first installment of Horizon fared poorly at the box office. Despite the critical praise it garnered at Cannes, the film's domestic earnings were lackluster, grossing just $29 million, far below its estimated $100 million production budget. Internationally, the film barely registered, with a paltry $3.6 million in earnings. It was a significant disappointment for Costner and his team, who had poured years of effort into the project. The film's financial performance raised doubts about the viability of continuing the saga. Would audiences turn out for future installments? Could the necessary funding be secured to keep the project alive? Commitment and sacrifice. Costner's dedication to the vision. Despite the lackluster box office results, Costner remained steadfast in his commitment to Horizon. For him, the project was about more than immediate financial returns. He viewed the saga as a long-term labour of love, a project that would outlast box office success and leave a lasting impact on the cultural understanding of the American West. The film was a reflection of his personal connection to the genre, and he was determined to see it through, no matter the obstacles. Costner's dedication to Horizon became even more evident when, despite the poor performance of the first film, he continued to push forward with the project. He secured funding for the second installment, maintaining the grand scope and ambitious narrative vision. This commitment was made even more challenging given the ongoing financial struggles of the project. But Costner refused to abandon the saga. He knew that completing the story was important, not just for him, but for the future of the Western genre itself. In a further testament to his dedication, Costner had already shot 3 days of the third installment of Horizon, despite the financial and logistical hurdles. To help fund the next chapters, he began reaching out to various financiers, knocking on doors at the Cannes Film Festival in an attempt to secure the necessary backing. His passion for telling the story of the American West remained unshaken, and he was willing to go to great lengths to ensure that the saga continued. The future of Horizon and Yellowstone, a turning point for Costner and Sheridan. While Kevin Costner faces uncertainty with the Horizon saga, Yellowstone continues to evolve under the guidance of creator Taylor Sheridan. The Yellowstone universe has expanded with multiple spin-offs that delve deeper into the history of the Dutton family and the American West. 1883, which premiered in 2021, and 1923, which followed in 2022, offer prequels that explore the generational struggles of the Dutton family and the changing landscape of the American frontier. The upcoming spin-offs, including 6666 and 1944, promise to further broaden the scope of the Yellowstone franchise, and there are even more planned for the future. As Sheridan continues to expand the universe with new stories and characters, one question remains: can he manage such a vast portfolio of projects? With the demands of multiple series and his commitment to maintaining the quality and integrity of Yellowstone and its spin-offs, it's unclear how he will balance it all. Meanwhile, the future of Horizon remains uncertain. Despite Costner's passionate commitment, the financial risks and challenges of sustaining such a large-scale project loom large. Will the Western genre, once the cornerstone of Hollywood, be able to return to its former glory? Or will it continue to struggle in the face of contemporary blockbuster sensibilities? Costner's sacrifice for Horizon, his willingness to invest his time, energy, and resources into this dream project, remains a powerful statement about the importance of storytelling and artistic integrity. However, whether it proves to be a commercial success or becomes a beloved cult classic is yet to be seen. The future of the Western genre and of Costner's vision will depend on a combination of passion, persistence, and the willingness of modern audiences to embrace the slow, deliberate pace of history as told through the lens of one of Hollywood's most dedicated storytellers. As for Yellowstone, it will carry on, but it remains to be seen if the absence of Costner's central presence will affect its legacy. For fans of both Costner's work and the Western genre, the coming years will hold many questions. Will Horizon rise from its initial struggles, or will it become yet another bold ambition that ultimately fades from view? Only time will tell.